Welcome back to another episode of Terrifying Tales. Today, we're taking you on a bone-chilling journey into the unseen horrors of taxi rides with psycho drivers. So buckle up and prepare for a hair-raising experience you won't soon forget. It was a pitch black night, and the rain was pouring down. Lucy hailed a taxi, hoping to get home quickly and dry off. The driver seemed off from the start. His eyes were piercing, filled with an eerie intensity. But before Lucy could react, he took off, speeding through the empty streets like a madman. Lucy felt her heart pounding in her chest. She tried to speak to the driver, but he didn't respond. He just kept driving, faster and faster. Lucy was terrified. She didn't know what to do. Suddenly, the taxi swerved off the road and into a ditch. Lucy was thrown from her seat and hit her head on the dashboard. She was knocked unconscious. When Lucy woke up, she was in a hospital bed. The doctor told her that she had been in a coma for 2 weeks. She had suffered a concussion and a broken leg, but she was going to be okay. Lucy was relieved to be alive, but she was also traumatized by her experience. She had nightmares about the taxi driver and the way he had looked at her. She was afraid to go out at night, and she didn't trust anyone. It took Lucy a long time to recover from the trauma of her experience, but eventually, she was able to move on with her life. She learned to trust again, and she even started to go out at night, but she never forgot the taxi driver. She knew that he was out there somewhere, and she was always on guard. She would never let her guard down again. Lucy's story is just one of many disturbing encounters that happen in cities every day. These stories are often hidden in the shadows, but we're here to shed light on them. We want people to know that they're not alone, and that there are people who care about them. Our next tale comes from Mark, a passenger who discovered firsthand that sometimes the monsters we fear are closer than we think. Mark was heading home after a long day at work. He was tired and just wanted to get into his bed. He hailed a taxi and got in, giving the driver his address. The driver seemed friendly at first, but Mark soon got a strange feeling from him. The driver kept glancing at Mark in the rearview mirror, and his smile seemed to be a little too wide. Mark tried to ignore his feeling, but it wouldn't go away. He kept looking out the window, watching the streets go by. Suddenly, the driver turned down an isolated alley. Mark's heart started to race. He knew something wasn't right. He turned to the driver and said, "Hey, I think you took a wrong turn." The driver just smiled and said, "No, I know where I'm going." Mark begged the driver to let him go, but the driver just kept driving. Mark started to panic. He didn't know what to do. The alley got darker and darker. Mark could hear the sound of his own breathing. He was so scared he thought he was going to be sick. Finally, the driver stopped the car. He turned around and smiled at Mark again. His smile was even wider now, and his eyes were filled with a strange light. Mark knew he was in danger. He opened the door and started to run. The driver got out of the car and chased after him. Mark ran as fast as he could, but the driver was gaining on him. Mark could hear the driver's footsteps getting closer and closer. Just when Mark thought he was going to be caught, he saw a light in the distance. He ran towards the light, and soon he found himself back on the main street. He didn't stop running until he was sure the driver was gone. He collapsed on the sidewalk, gasping for breath. He had escaped, but he knew he would never forget what had happened that night. He had learned that sometimes the monsters we fear are closer than we think. Amidst the bustling city, a lone figure hailed a taxi on a dimly lit street corner. The driver's stoic face and icy demeanor sent shivers down the passenger's spine. As the taxi roared to life, strange whispers filled the air, and the passenger's reflection in the rearview mirror began to contort into grotesque shapes. The destination seemed to change on its own, leading to a desolate cemetery. The passenger's heart raced as the driver turned to reveal hollow eyes and a wicked grin. With a chilling laugh, the driver said, "Welcome to your final resting place." The passenger's screams echoed through the night. An exhausted traveler stepped into a taxi after a long flight. The driver's monotone voice and vacant stare were unnerving. As the journey progressed, the traveler noticed the same landmarks passing by, repeatedly. Panic set in as minutes turned into hours, and the traveler realized they were trapped in a time loop. Each loop brought them closer to a reality where the driver's features became twisted and demonic. Desperation gripped the traveler as they tried to escape the endless cycle, haunted by the driver's sinister laughter. A group of friends celebrating a night out hailed a taxi for their journey home. The jovial driver seemed friendly, but his laugh held an eerie quality during the ride. The friends noticed their surroundings warping and changing. They pleaded with the driver to stop, but he only grinned wider. One by one, the friends began to vanish, leaving behind only their terrified screams. The last remaining friend watched in horror as the driver's appearance shifted into a distorted blend of all the disappeared passengers, proving their fates were sealed. A wary commuter entered a taxi during a heavy rainstorm. The driver's face was obscured by shadows, and the interior seemed impossibly vast. The rain pounded against the windows like a desperate plea for help, and the road ahead appeared to stretch into eternity. Faint whispers filled the cab, growing louder with each passing moment. The driver's voice joined the chorus, revealing secrets and fears the passenger had never shared. As the taxi sped on, the whispers became maddening, and the passenger's mind began to unravel. On a foggy night, a lone traveler sought refuge in a taxi. The driver's face was hidden beneath a tattered hat, and the cab's interior was stifling. The traveler's attempts to provide directions were met with eerie silence, and the road seemed to twist and turn without rhyme or reason. Panic set in as the traveler realized they were trapped in a labyrinthine nightmare. The driver's chuckles grew more sinister as the traveler's sense of direction faded. The night seemed endless as the traveler's sanity slipped away. A journalist investigating strange occurrences hailed a taxi to reach their next lead. The driver's face was obscured, hidden behind a tangle of hair. As they drove, the journalist noticed reflections in the windows that didn't match reality. People with distorted features and menacing grins. Confronting the driver about these reflections only led to maniacal laughter. The journalist's reflection began to shift as well, revealing a doppelganger with hollow eyes. They realized the driver was a conduit for malevolent spirits, and escape seemed impossible as the taxi hurtled toward a dimension of endless darkness. In each of these tales, unsuspecting passengers encounter taxi drivers who serve as conduits for supernatural horrors. The ordinary act of hailing a taxi transforms into a nightmarish experience, where reality warps, time bends, and the unseen terrors lurking in the shadows are unleashed. Whether it's a haunting fare, a time loop, vanishing passengers, whispering roads, inescapable nights, or doppelganger drivers, the horror of these taxi rides is etched into the passengers' minds forever. Thanks for joining us on this bone-chilling adventure. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling content. Until next time, stay safe out there.